Bonjour everyone. Hope Indigenous Osawa Anaquad Dokwe Indigo Meshkazi Bengendunchaba Mikizi Nundundem. My name is Hope. The spirits call me a cloud woman. I am from Midwifery and I am Eagle Clan. And I'm going to start off with starting my smudge. I would like you to do it too if you do have it, or I welcome you to. This is something I like to start out with. Thank you all for coming. So my topic is Anishinaabe traditional teachings during childbearing years. I am an Indigenous birth worker. I am a student midwife. I'm a mother of 6 children, ages 9 and under, and I have been doing birth work for over 6 years now as a student midwife at the Ashland Birth Center, Indigenous birth worker, doula. I'm also a certified Indigenous breastfeeding counselor, and I'm an advocate and community leader on my reservation. So I'm an apprentice midwife at the Ashland Birth Center. I also work at Better Birth Social Services as the director of an AODA family prevention program called Wiiji-Nitaawiginaawasojig. Also, just within last year, I became owner of Wiiji-Nitaawiginaawasojig, Indigenous Birth Services, which means the ones who help each other bear children. And once I found my calling of birth work, I knew, my purpose in life is to support Indigenous individuals, families, and community in creating the space that's needed to heal and create healthy traditions. And then just want to share some pictures of my family and my children. So the first thing I always start out with is which is to live a good life. I always ask people to incorporate the 7 grandfather teachings into your everyday life, which they are love, respect, bravery, truth, honesty, humility, and wisdom, as well as when I am working with families during the childbearing years, and how to incorporate that in pregnancy and with birth, especially. It really helps out your birth when you incorporate these teachings into it. So one thing that I always say as well with the Minobamadaziwan is to use your medicines. We have our 4 sacred medicines: tobacco, cedar, sage, and sweetgrass. Tobacco being, we always do a sema first with everything for our offerings. I love offering tobacco to my families that I work with, and respecting that space that they allow me to be there, and really thank them for that. And then with cedar, I do a lot of cedar teas for clients. It's good to drink, especially postpartum, and it's really nourishing for the body and cleansing. And as well as cedar baths. We do cedar baths with the mothers and with the babies. Their first baths after would be a cedar bath. And sage, I like to smudge whenever I am meeting with clients, families, or any teachings, groups, really just starting out, with your sage and making sure you are starting off on the right track. And then sweetgrass, I shared a picture of my littlest one, Alina, holding the sweetgrass, and it's the sacred hair of Mother Earth. And it's really, when it's used in the circle form, then it has a calming effect, which I wanted during that time because she was getting her pictures taken. So I like sharing that. And then one thing that I talk about with families is a birth bundle. And with that, it's really what's important to you. So it's kind of just acknowledged at the beginning, and then as our relationship starts to grow and really touching on subjects and what's important to them. So your birth bundle can be anything that holds importance to you, sacred items, teachings, lessons, gifts, and what you physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally would like to have during your childbirth. I welcome my clients to do so. And I forgot to mention at first, one thing that I like to always acknowledge is, you know, these teachings and the ceremonies are my beliefs, and I do not expect anybody to utilize any or all of it. It's just offered, and I like to just have the space for them to decide what they want on their journey and know that it's their story. And I'm just grateful to be a part of their story. So this is really helping just give them the tools to be able to build their story and, you know, the birth that they really would love. So some bundle items that we have had were our medicines, of course. We incorporate our medicines into the birth and to labor as much as they would like. And then ribbon skirts, I've helped women make their ribbon skirts, pictured as myself and my ribbon skirt that I wore during my birth. And then moccasins, we have had parents ask for help with moccasins. Otherwise, we've had grandparents help out with that as well. Moss bags, and then a new thing that I just learned with my partner this last year is we learned how to make cradle boards. Finally, after our sixth child, we made our first noggin, so that was really special. And then an Indian swing, I absolutely encourage an Indian swing because it helped me, especially when you have little ones back to back and you still have kiddos and co-sleeping, and it's just soothing to have an Indian swing above the bed. Also, the traditional remedies during and after birth, we do encourage, you know, you to reach out to your healers in your family or your community, whoever you would seek knowledge from. I do have stuff that I personally use, and I just like to say that to reach out to those that you trust for that. And then, of course, the 7 grandfather teachings for birth. So with that would be, you know, to respect the process, for example, to trust in your body and that you're meant for this, and to love everything that the process, because I know it can be really long and enduring for families to go through, and really just holding on to those teachings and why they're doing it and the importance of it. It's really makes a difference when they incorporate that during pregnancy and kind of build themselves up to it. So it's really great to learn about it and really set those for yourselves during the pregnancy part, and then just to have reminders during the birth. So some of my ceremonies and teachings that I have, I'm going to go in, you know, just order. So preparation, when you're preparing for the birth, you can do with either just a traditional home birth, or with my 5th baby, we built a birth lodge outside of our home, and we had maple saplings that we did, and me and my partner and my friend and her husband that came over and helped us build it. And really the teaching behind it is that the lodge represents Mother Earth's womb, and all things, you know, sacred go in a circle. And so that was really special, and you really feel the power within the lodge when you are giving birth, and you really are connected to Mother Earth in the spirit world. And then, so that would be something that you would prepare prior to giving birth. Like, I think we did it once I hit full term, 37 weeks, then we built it outside, and then we just kind of kept like the upkeep of it, just the frame, and then we set the tarps. And there's a picture, as you can see. I also did the inside. We had a twin bed, and then like a nightstand with lights, and then a little setup for where the midwives had their birth bag at. And then the birth fire, that's also what we do around that time, is we would get our firewood. We do a birth fire traditionally with our births. My partner, that's the male role, is to start that birth fire, and we don't start it until active labor, but it's good to have the supplies there and just kind of go through with the partner on how to start the fire, when to start it, and then, you know, just to start it in a good way with your prayers first, and really just going through that to make sure that they feel comfortable and supported during that time. And then, during labor, we have the birth fire lighting, which would be when you're in active labor. So once the contractions start to change, you hit about 5 or 6 centimeters, then we'll give the go ahead and be like, it's time to start the fire. And the birth fire is a beacon for the baby spirit. So that's to help guide your baby spirit down to earth. And we really make sure we put our good prayers into it, and we'll have all of our helpers and even the mother that's given birth put our prayers out there for baby and wish, a good travel. So that's something that we will do. And then along with that is the songs. I've had lots of Indigenous doulas and helpers in the community and across the bay at Red Cliff community come over and just sing songs. It's really healing and powerful when you get women together and sing some songs. So I absolutely appreciate that. And if you can, I would recommend it for anybody. And then postpartum. So in the top right corner, that is a picture of my daughter meeting Mother Earth first. So the teaching with that is after baby's born, you want to have your baby's feet touch the earth. And that's just having baby meet Mother Earth and welcome them to the physical world and letting them, just get that connection. So we did that. We had a hole in the middle of our lodge there just for a spot, just for that. So that's a really important one. And if you're doing a hospital birth, we'd had parents gather dirt in like a container from their land and bring it into the hospital room. And then you could just, after they're born, you can have them meet the land that you wish. So that's really great that you can incorporate that as well. We found different ways that we can incorporate stuff, not just at home birth, but also a hospital, because it's not about where you give birth, it's how you give birth. We always share. And a picture of breastfeeding, of course. It's our first food and medicine, and it's really with the support for that for postpartum for Indigenous people, we don't really have a time frame for it. We don't get cut off at 6 weeks. It's really one of those lifelong relationships that we have in our community. So I have mothers reach out, with their toddlers and asking about how they can wean their toddlers, or how to help with drying up milk and stuff, or just how to transition from bonding, because that's really how you get most of your bonding. So it's really a lifelong, relationship building with the breastfeeding, not just during the postpartum time, not just the 6 weeks. Also, the traditional remedies that we'll use is cedar tea. We usually make cedar tea and have the mother and family drink cedar tea after the birth, and it's just refreshing and healing to get that first warm sip of tea. And we also say to keep warm, don't drink anything cold, don't eat anything cold, and kind of just stick to warm foods and liquids and stay nice and toasty in bed, and nothing cold on your bottom, no ice packs, just keep warmth to your body. That's to help you heal fast. So it's always hard to say no to ice cream and stuff, or ice packs on the bottom, but it's really, we like to encourage, warmth. It's really healing for our body. And then we do a 4-day feast with the baby. So that's kind of the time where we would celebrate baby, maybe meet baby then. Not so much in the first few days, as that's just bonding and family time, but the 4-day feast is where we will offer our thanks for baby and the safe travel and healthy baby, healthy delivery, healthy mom. And it's really nice for the family to get together and just all really appreciate and think about the transitions and how it all went. And then another ceremony that we do is the placenta ceremony. So for our teachings, we bury our placentas, And we bury it anytime within the first year. So before their first birthday, you want to bury their placenta. And the teaching with that is it's really to give back and say thanks for, you know, your child, but also to create this place where your child is grounded and where they can go to throughout their life and kind of reflect, or if, you know, they need somewhere to go and just really have that space to feel grounded, that's where you would go. So we have different spots for that we've put our placentas, and just a kind of special places that our kids can go to throughout their life and really share that teachings with them. It's really, you see the healing in it when your children are part of it and they're growing up with this as a normal. So I really like to encourage, you know, the involvement of children. They're not too young to learn this stuff and understand it. And then these are just some common herbs that I wanted to share on uses in, you know, pregnancy or childbearing years. Of course, you know, you always want to discuss it with, you know, your medicine man, midwife, herbalist, or, you know, whoever you go to for care, for your proper care and dosage, because there's difference between the leaves, the roots, and just different parts of the plants and how you consume it and how much. So this is just to get some ideas on stuff that you can share and then really dig into after. Red raspberry leaf is my #1 go-to with any family during the childbearing years. It's just a overall like super uterus herb. It helps with your menstruation, your cramps. It helps with your uterus, and, you know, it's a uterine tonic. So during pregnancy, it really helps keep it nice and toned and prepare for labor and delivery. So it also helps like with your labor pains, and it actually decrease your labor amount too. I personally used it, drink every day, and it works wonders. Then there's just different ones with different nutritional and supportive stuff. Oats and oat straw, nettles, chamomile, dandelion, ginger, fennel, and alfalfa. Those are just some basic ones that I've learned in herbology that I really think are useful, but again, with the proper dosage. And then I just sharing some pictures of some special moments for me. In the top left corner is in my birth lodge when I was in transition, getting ready for baby to come out. And I have my doula and my partner and my family in there. I really like to share the space so people can really get to understand how it goes. And in the bottom left corner is my assistants, my doulas, my elder Penny Charette partner, and that's at our birth fire that we had. And they were singing songs and putting their prayers in. And then in the upper right corner is a group of women that I connect with. We on Indigenous breastfeeding. We did our stories and pictures together. Also, some of them I've done birth work with, and just it's really nice to show like your community and your support team and tribe that you reach out to, and just kind of share those ideas on like looking for birth workers and doulas. It's not just about just the birth itself. It's just finding that support system as an Indigenous person. It's really important to have that when most of us can't. We're missing that right now in our families. So it's really great to expand. And then the bottom right is my 2 midwives. One of my best friends and my partner that we were finding out my baby was 10 pounds there, home birth. And then just the credits, all the images are my personal experience and information from my teachings, beliefs, and experience, and then just recommendations. So I have the Ashland Birth Center and then my birth services. I'd like to acknowledge my teachers, so Savita Jones and Dana Chernus from the Ashland Birth Center. I learned a lot of my my teachings from Doreen Day. We did Indigenous midwifery class with her, and it was just amazing. So if you ever get the opportunity to learn from Doreen, I highly recommend it. Penny Charette, she is our local traditional midwife, doula, elder, go-to woman. She also is a mother with a lot of children. So it's great to seek guidance from her, especially as a young mother with 6 children, really just trying to find the balance in that. So she is definitely my go-to Wonder Woman.
I guess, Hope, do you have any desire to share anything about your birth stories, or how you, I know that with some people, there's a lot of reclaiming happening, right? There's a lot of people who are having to find different pieces and, be able to knit everything all back together for their own stories and to change that. Like I was, for example, just introducing your baby to the directions and to Mother Earth. I didn't do that with my daughter, but I'm so looking forward to doing that to with my grandchild that's coming next month. So I just wanted to see if you wanted to share anything about your personal birth journeys, and also now that you're on the path of midwifery, and just kind of share whatever comes up for that.
Yeah, definitely. So all 6 of my births were completely different. They each time kind of incorporated a little more teachings, a little more, knowledge and experience from myself and my partner. So my first birth was a hospital birth, and it of course wasn't pleasant at all. I had my son in the hospital, and then after I found out I was pregnant with my second child, I was so close with my son. I was like, gosh, I can't have him stay at a family member's house. I don't feel comfortable with him being gone, but I don't feel comfortable with him being in the hospital. So I looked into, different options, and I was told about midwives, which I didn't know anything about. And then once I had my consult, I fell in love with it. But each time it was, a little different. My first birth was just at the birth center. It's out of hospital birth. And then my third, we had a water birth, and that was really, really unique. And I wanted to do that with my first one, but my body wasn't ready to allow me to have that, because I was, more tense being my first out of hospital, not knowing what to expect. So with my third, I was able to do a water birth, and that was even before any of the teachings that I received. And that alone was just, incredible. And then I had my first home birth, and that we had just a regular home birth with a fire and doulas that came along. And then after that, we had a birth lodge. So then each one, we got further into our teachings along the way and kind of more comfortable with reclaiming them. So with the birth lodge, it was like, oh, I'm definitely going to do this. It was raining. It was, I don't even think it was 40 degrees. And we still made it really warm and comfortable in the lodge. And it was like, oh, this is what we're doing. I kind of, after each child, I was building more confidence in myself and my teachings and my learning. So even though my midwife be like, well, we don't have to, we can do this. I was like, no, we're definitely doing this. So it was nice to be able to find like my, my voice in it, and just being able to be more comfortable with more teachings along the way. And then my last baby, we actually had unassisted. It wasn't planned. It was an unplanned, unassisted. I woke up and I was like, oh, we definitely got to call the midwife. And within an hour, she was already on her way. So Dad had to deliver baby by himself at home. And with that, I knew we didn't even have enough time to start the fire. So it was funny. My partner was like, do you want me to go start her fire? Because I didn't even get to start her fire yet. I'm like, it's okay. We don't have time. She's already coming. She already knows her way, her path, So it was a great building experience for that. And then with that, I think that really was what helped encourage my partner to find his sobriety. My partner was struggling with an opiate addiction for, I think, 6 years. And then with the birth of our last child, and he like kind of seen how much importance he had and how much power he had as a father. So that really helped him start his sobriety. He became sober, you know, after our daughter was born that night. And it's been a year and a half of sobriety. So it's really nice to be able to share that there's healing in the teachings, in the culture, and just in the just how we, you know, live and how we bond, and really let it know, like, I like to share the importance of fathers and their role. And I like to build it up, because it's mostly when you are in, you know, at a clinic, it's all about the mom. How are you doing? How's your sugars? How's this? Okay, next one. Where they don't talk to the father so much. They don't really have their role. Where in the Indigenous communities, they have their really important roles that they need to, you know, help with mother and baby and make sure everything's going how it should. So that's something I did not add in a slide. And I talk a lot about the importance of fathers, and I like to share how my partner, like the growth with each child and each birth experience with the teachings. Yeah, I just, as a midwife now, I mean, from my personal experiences, just knowing, you know, how much growth I've had in myself and my family, it's just something that I feel that everyone should have an opportunity to experience and have that person guide them along the way. So I highly encourage, even just a doula. Doulas are amazing.
I want to circle back a little bit to something you said. Oh, are
Mhm.
you, I don't know if the computer's catching up or if you are still speaking. I'm just going to give a pause for a minute. Okay. But I just wanted to circle back to how you were talking about when it was time for your birth and the fire wasn't even begun, and your husband or your partner was preparing to catch the baby. And I wanted to just point out that, you know, all of the things that you listed in your presentation, they're not recipes. It's not a to-do list. It's not a, you know, in order to have things go well or perfect, you need to check off each moment. Like I've had people who just held on to, you know, so much grief. Like, for example, that they were just really, you know, they had a fast birth, for example, and they just weren't even thinking to ask the hospital for their placenta, and it was whisked away and gone. And that aspect, that element of ceremony, you know, was unable to happen. And people often just carry deep grief. And I just want to say that, you know, none of these things are meant to be a recipe or they're just all elements of teachings. And if there's not time to build the fire, it's okay. Then that's the way this birth is unfolding, and it's supposed to be. So I just wanted to point that out, of that reassurance to your partner that, you know, be there right now, you know, move with just how things are unfolding, and let that be just as it's supposed to be. And I think that that's something that we need to just remind people, is that there's frequently just moments or changes or things that we want the same or want differently with the next birth, or want the same or want differently for the families that you go on to support. And that there's no right way for any of this. It's in the intention, it's in the effort, it's in the putting in the work and laying down the prayers and starting on that path. That's the point.
Absolutely. And I like to touch base with that too, you know, during pregnancy, just so they know, so they're not so disappointed in the end. And just knowing, like, it's your story, and each story is unique, and it's going to play out how it needs to, regardless of what you had planned. It'll play out how it was meant to be with, with your family and the creator, and just being able to appreciate, the unique birth story that each baby has.
I'm also curious if you are wanting to share a bit about, so, what I saw in your photos is what a lot of people are, and myself included, had experienced, in that I didn't have an Indigenous midwife in my community who could support me and serve me and be that person. And I had to weave it all together with, I had my ceremony people, and I had, my midwives, and I wove it all together, and it was beautiful. And at the same time, there was this just deep ache to have the what, generations would have just been so, what existed for all of us. And so I just wanted to see if you could share a little bit about, what your hopes are in moving into being a midwife yourself and working in your community. And, I like to point out that, yes, and a lot of our community is actively being harmed in institutions. That wasn't my personal experience with my midwives. I had lovely, lovely midwives, but I had to have the culture piece where I could choose to invite them or not. And I had my ceremonial piece that, was not the hands that were touching and caring for me in these other ways. And so I want to just say that it's not even about bad care always, because I think that's what gets the attention. That's what gets the press is, when there's abuses, and yes, that's happening all the time, and we need to stop that. But even when it's beautiful, even when the care is wonderful, there was still this ache that I felt, and also a desire to have it be different, for families in my community. So I just wanted to see if you wanted to speak to that as someone who's, actively working, to be able to serve your community in this way.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first had midwifery care, like you said, it was wonderful, but I did feel that, there was something missing. So when I received my teachings and we had our Indigenous midwifery group that we would meet once a month, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is what we're missing. So it was kind of like the piece that was missing for me, and I knew it. So when I was thinking about my role and how I'm going to present it into the community, I was very gradual with teachings, and it was really new to the community. And it was like, well, we don't have home births, we don't do this. What's a birth fire? It's for, that's only. So it's a lot of acknowledging that or in the community and getting the recognition first. And it took a little while for them to be like, okay, this is getting normal, and not so much questioning. So when I think of, Indigenous midwifery, it's different for midwives because we work as a community in the Indigenous communities. And I feel that everything needs to play a role together. So I work in social services, and I was telling, my coworkers, like, you need a midwife in social services because this ties in exactly with families, and they need to be supported overall, not just for the prenatal care, but just overall. So social services should be on board with midwifery care and our natural resources and, all these different programs within the community, really just there to support the overall well-being of our Indigenous people. So that's what I kind of foresee, like my work. Like, it's not just I'm catching babies, and I love babies, but it's not just about that. It's about really caring for your people overall, and just knowing that they have somebody there to support them through whatever it is. You know, our AODA, I think they should work closely with midwives, because even our mothers that are using, they could really use the support, you know, even if they don't qualify for out of hospital birth or for midwifery care, just as if they were to receive that personal love and support in the community. I think that's what I want to be able to do. It's not being able to just deliver babies at homes or out of hospital. It's about being there to support our next generation and really uplifting our families so they can create bonds with their children. And that's why I think social services is a huge part of that, because it's really about the family overall, and how we are going to get these children to be able to heal and change for the next generations to come, and be able to battle these substance abuses that we are seeing right now in our communities. And that's kind of my go-to thing right now, is I really just want to be that person to overall support our families, whether they qualify for out of hospital care or not. I think that's the difference between an Indigenous midwife and just a midwife.
And how about your midwifery journey? Do you want to share a little bit about just how you're trying to integrate all of the different resources and supports and struggles that are just there every time? You're a mother of 6 young children.
I know it's hard to find the time, but the way I do it is I just do the work, and I don't really question it. I think people are going to come to me when they need to, and I just need to be there to support them and answer their questions as need be. So my journey has been, as far as like clinical setting, has been very laid back, and it's been more of like community support. And my preceptor has been amazing with supporting that, and not knowing it's just about you need to make this amount of births and you need to help with this. She's really supportive of doing, like, letting me do my community work. So I have people that reach out with phone calls, messages, text, pretty much whatever, just random times of the night, questions of whatever. And I just feel that on my journey, that's kind of what I need to do, is just kind of build my relationships right now and build a trust with my community. And I put more work into my community work right now compared to the clinical setting. I am on the assistant midwife phase. And so after this summer, I think August is when we're going to kind of dive into the more like training part of it. And right now we're trying to, we're talking with Bad River, our clinic out here, and how we can start a midwifery program within our tribal community. And how we would like that to go is I would do the care, and my midwife would oversee it, my preceptor, and kind of would just, as I'm in the assistant, she would just oversee it, and I would be the one, hands-on, and just assist as need be. That way that they can get the care in our tribal clinic, and not having to go to town or be seen at the birth center. So I'm really excited for that, and hopefully within the next couple of years it'll be something that we have in full effect, and then just gradually use that work line to, I'm assistant midwife to primary midwife, and then licensed midwife. So I'm not really at a time frame with my licensure right now. It's just kind of, I'm just doing the work, the community work right now. So hopefully in a couple of years I'll be ready for that. And it's nice because, like you said, a mother of 6 children, it's been really juggling to manage my time and stuff. So it's really nice to have a preceptor that's, flexible with it. And she knows, like, she always tells me, raise your babies first, your family comes first. The birth work and midwifery will always be here, and we'll always need you when you're ready. So that's kind of what our motto is on how we get it to work out in the long run, is because, she knows that family always comes first, and it's been really great team effort that way.
That's wonderful. I'm so thankful to hear that, and it's really essential, in my opinion, to just make that work, and that we can rethink the pathways to training and the way that typical midwifery programs or educational pathways have been laid out for us. Last week I wrote just a Facebook post that said, Camas is dug, baby is born, sweat lodge is built. Here's to an amazing weekend of, hard but oh so joyful work. And someone messaged me and they were just like, how, what if the baby was born on the day you were supposed to build the sweat lodge? And I was like, at this point in time in my life, I trust that I am going to be at the ceremonies I'm supposed to be at. And that obviously families always have care, and I'm going to prioritize being there for them. But that I also just trust that it works out, because it really, when it is done in a way that is about relationship and connection and things that are greater than us, that's just different than when I was on a calendar at a busy birth center and being pulled away to attend births. It's just different. And so I really feel like, trusting that also it's okay to take time. It's okay to take time with your training. It's okay to take time on if being on call is right for your family right then. It's okay to see it as a calling that's a forever calling. And I think that a lot of people feel like they have to choose or give up or walk away. And I just try and remind them that this doesn't have to be a dream that you say goodbye to. It just might be that right now your energy is right where it belongs, by being called to care for your grandmother or tend to your health or whatever those things are, and that we need to trust that as well. And really just in praise of your preceptor for accepting that that's real life, that being a community midwife means that sometimes, tending, to a ceremony over here is what is needed to be important. And it might mean that you miss out on something over there, a clinical opportunity or something like that, but it's essentially important. And therefore, it might take you longer to have all the aspects signed off or whatever that may look like, but that it's okay. And I just want to encourage people to trust that, to trust the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when encouraging others to dive into birth work, I like to say that as well, just trust in the creator. And if it's something that you want to do, it doesn't have to be a right now thing. It could be a slow process or just a here and there, like Penny Charette, our elder and traditional midwife. She is not licensed. She is not doing any clinical work except, when she is just called to a birth and she can make it. But she doesn't lose that title as, a midwife, because she's important to our community and she's doing the work that she needs to. So it's really nice to be able to decolonize the work itself, and just to have my preceptor acknowledge that and invite her in as she's needed. And, she's still our traditional midwife, and she does all these wonderful ceremonies with our families. And she's just on a, when she can make it. And that's really important for our communities to be able to see that and accept it. And it really does work out how it's supposed to. We always say trust the creator as well. And it does. We've never been in a spot where it hasn't worked out how it was supposed to, whether or not all the people you think are supposed to be there, just like with your birth. when you're trying to decide what people will be there, I've had people not come and that I thought should be there, and it all plays out how it's supposed to. So even if somebody has that ceremony to go to, that's what they were meant to do. And it's really nice to acknowledge that. And it plays with our, our it goes hand in hand with our 7 grandfather teachings. And I like to tell our families in ways how it works with birth and pregnancy, to trust in the timing, trust in the creator, trust in yourself, and just all these different things, how they are incorporated our teachings. And it really does help them get into a better mind frame and less discouragement when it comes time, because they already know that this is how they should be carrying themselves each from day to day with those teachings, our grandfather teachings. And each person, that'll mean something different to them. And it's nice to be able to acknowledge that and remind them when it comes time in the work and in the birth. And, it's my go-to thing, the 7 grandfather teachings. And it's just, like you said, just being able to trust in that and into the higher power. So it's definitely beautiful to see the difference with that and support Indigenous midwifery.
Any questions from the attendees?
I have a question. My name is Misty Jackson, also from Bad River. So Hope, I don't know you personally, but I know of you. So good job. I really appreciate the work that you're doing up there. I'm currently down in Madison, Wisconsin, and it's hard for me to be away from home, but it's nice that we can do these types of Zoom things, I guess. I'm actually 23 and 4 days, 23 weeks and 4 days. And I actually had a question about the common herbs slide that you had put up, in particular the red raspberry leaf. And I was just wondering if the recommendation for having that type of tea is for during the prenatal stage, or is that for a postpartum stage?
So it could be for both. You could drink it throughout, like I would drink a cup a day, but then more so like when you become full term, then that's when you would kind of drink more to kind of, I would just have lightly red raspberry tea until you're full term. That kind of helps your body get into gear of labor. So I personally would drink a cup a day myself. And then when it came time, like full term, I would have, like 2 or 3 cups. I just have a pitcher made in the fridge and just sip on that. And that really helps gear your uterus up for labor.
Okay, and did you buy it, or did you like pick it yourself or have it picked?
I bought it, you have to make sure it's the red raspberry leaf tea. So they have it at the co-op. Walmart used to sell it, but I think I'm not sure if they do anymore, but you can buy it over counter.
Okay, I was just curious because I've had different aspects on that. I'm adopted into a Crow tribe out in Montana, and I was warned away from red raspberry leaf tea and anything to do with raspberries. So I just, our cultures are different. Tribes are different and stuff. So I just was curious about that, because I actually had stopped drinking it completely. It used to be kind of like a go-to drink for when I had cramps, like during menstrual periods. So I'm just wondering about that, and I kind of miss it, but I know that I think at the full term that was something that I did hear, like in a lodge, that I should be drinking at that point, but not until then, basically. So I just was kind of curious about that. Thanks, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
I could add in, Hope, if it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to just say is that our soil has been so depleted, and issues such as monoculture and just all of the struggles that our plant relatives are having to be burdened with trying to provide and nurture and grow, and our bodies need these minerals. That is so often what is being what is what red raspberry leaf is all about, is deep mineral nutrition. And so that can look differently. Like for example, here I'm Coastal Salish, and it's there's a lot of different plants that can provide that. And the pregnancy tea formulas, what I tend to recommend is that people can begin them as early in pregnancy as they like, and that it's to just listen to their body. But that the fact that you took it for menstrual cramps meant that it softened them. And it's often because then we have just balance with minerals that help us to just grow our babies. It's not a uterine stimulant. There's a lot of confusion in that. So it's not that it, is going to cause contractions. It's that it gives our body the deep nourishment of the minerals that it needs to be able to have, balance within the musculature. And so, obviously find your own comfort, listen to your body, but having mineral rich teas is across everywhere a need. And so that might be nettles, that might be thimbleberry or salmonberry, that might be the red raspberry, that we all have these mineral rich teas that we gave throughout pregnancy, in addition to things such as bone broths and, just deep, rich nutrition and foods. And so I just want to say that it's about the minerals, not about stimulating the uterus. There's actually more research to curb against things such as ginger, because it's an emmenagogue, which means that it brings on menstruation, versus things like red raspberry leaf that is, about just supporting the womb, and it has such an affinity for the womb, as well as just for our musculature everywhere. So that's my thought. I just wanted to add in to that, that there's every body is different and our sensitivities are different, and that ultimately you will likely know at that first sip if that is the blend for you. And I would really encourage you to try and find a local source, a local herb shop, and local herbalist. Red raspberry leaf is so easy to grow, so easy to grow. And I mean, obviously not everywhere, but and to be able to just harvest and dry and have. And a lot of times people who have gardens will grow raspberries and they don't want the leaf. They're not doing anything with the leaf. And so they are happy for you to come and just, cut it away and dry it and, break it all up and be able to give it, take it for yourself or your families. I also feel like this deep mineral rich nutrition is for pregnancy, but it's also just for always. And so maybe it's about when you're on your moon, or maybe it's in the postpartum, but it's about building our blood and having all of those aspects, to just really be supporting your body. Okay, any other questions for Hope?
Actually, I was wondering if I could maybe get Hope's email, because I don't see you on social media. I think I see your family on there, but not you. If I had any questions coming up.
Yes. I will post it in the chat.
Hi, my name is Loida. I'm Peruvian, and I am my mom's side of Quechua descent. And I was thinking of you mentioned about how postpartum is important to not do like anything that is cold, and that is very similar to what we practice there as well, and not only Peru, like in that region, but also in many other areas, just like south of the border. And I here in a lot of the trainings, like I'm a doula, and so like a lot of the trainings, like it's usually like what they recommend for like tears and like just inflammation here. Apart from the sitz bath is like the pad, right? Like with witch hazel, and that is like frozen, or like a cold pad to help with that. And so I'm curious to hear, yeah, in your communities, what are some plants, medicines that you use for, yeah, for those, specifically like healing from the tears during labor, and yeah.
So as far as warmth, our go-to is we just do warm compression pads. So we, counter pressure during labor with, those warm pads. What we have done is we have made ginger packets. So fresh grated ginger, put it in a gauze pad, right? And then you fold it up, tie it. And we've even had mothers do that during pregnancy and then just pop them in their freezer. And then come birth time, we'll put them in the crock pot. So they'd have their ginger packs in the crock pot, warming that up with the water. And it has a really comforting smell to it as well for the room, but it also helps with the skin and the elasticity and healing. So that's a really great thing that I would recommend is grate some fresh ginger packets, heat that up in water, and just use that as a compression, even for postpartum as well for healing. That's what I would do.
Yeah, and I'll also share that I've had the same experience that, I was taught, to make frozen pads and place them on people's perineums and bottoms immediately after birth. And that's what I did for years. That's what I was taught. And people said, oh, that's so nice. And, and it does have that numbing effect. But since I've switched to just making the sitz bath herbs in labor and using either gauze or washcloths, clean washcloths, and having people use that for their hemorrhoids and their perineums, I am seeing such better healing, such extraordinarily. The swelling goes down faster, and it's, it has just a difference in, there's a lot of schools of thought around whether to use ice or warmth for different just trauma and injuries. But I think in particular for perineal, the blood flow is already just so wonderful. And the cold is just so incredibly different from what, that area of our bodies is wanting to be, how it's wanting to exist, how it's wanting to feel. And so while it might give a moment of numbness or help with some, swelling or bruising, I've just had so much better experiences since I switched. And I did that around 10 years ago. And people come, even if suturing happens, they complain so much less about how it feels. And their healing is just so much better. And so, while, the ginger is definitely one option, it can be great to support and encourage blood flow, during pushing and things like that sometimes. But, the sitz bath herbs and different blends, or even just warm water, and just that warmth, is just so soothing to people. And so whether it's steaming or sitz baths or, just a warm, I'll have people, if they just have a crock pot, just keep it at their bedside. Or if they brew up a big batch of sitz bath herbs, just even have that in a pitcher and put half of it in their peri bottle and the other half with really hot water and use that in their peri bottle every time. And I'm just having so much more, quicker healing and so many more issues or so fewer issues with just, continued hemorrhoids and continued just soreness. It just works really well. So that warmth everywhere is just truth. And when it comes to healing, that I do think that perineums just enjoy the experience of being wrapped in warmth much more than cold. I mean, I remember being taught to just put ice cubes in a rubber glove and put that on people's bottoms, and it wasn't great. So sometimes I will just make like 2 ice packs with witch hazel, but just if people, especially if they'd had a hospital birth prior, they request that, but pretty much have switched over, and it's been wonderful.
Thank you both for sharing.
Okay, well, we certainly don't have to use the full 2 hours if we're wrapping up, but I hope your photos were beautiful. I loved that it can be just simple. It is bring in your teachings, talk to your relatives and your family. It is just, be on the path of learning and welcoming and having it be a family-centered experience. And so many amazing things just happen. So I want to thank you. And I wanted to just see if there was any other questions that people have for Hope, or any other, in particular, if you're Anishinaabe and would like to share. I'd also, just because people who are pregnant and are specifically looking for these kind of teachings, it could be nice to just have multiple voices. I want to just say that some of these Zoomcasts are on specific topics and, or on specific just cultural teachings. And I'm really thankful, Hope, that, if I have an Anishinaabe client, I mean, I can only share with those relatives what I hold and what I know, but hearing directly from other people is always going to be more powerful. Hearing from people who, live that life and that culture. And that's part of supporting Indigenous families, is knowing what we bring and also helping support people to finding those other pieces for their bundle. So I want to thank you for that.
No, my name is Kimberly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm on the road. But I was listening, and I just wanted to say thank you, Hope, for sharing your stories and your experiences, and for the center for having this Zoomcast and everything. So I'm about 20 weeks, and this is my first child. I'm feeling a little bit anxious about it. I am having a home birth. I guess my question to you, Hope, is that since you have 6 times experiences, what is one thing as an Indigenous woman that you kept in your mind that kind of kept you, a little bit steadfast and motivated and capable of delivering your children? And what is one physical aspect that you think that I should probably watch out for? I'm just curious because this is my first child and it's going to be a home birth, and I'm trying to get as much knowledge as I can. So maybe if you could answer those to me, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. And congratulations. And I'm so happy to hear that you are shooting for a home birth for your first. That's incredible. So one thing that I would say that worked for me is just knowing that our bodies were meant to do this. And I really put in trust in myself and in the Creator. And it's really about trying not to think so much in your head, because I know, your mind will be running. So what I found to help me was to find something that was grounding for me and try to focus on that. Breathing is a huge thing. I would, try not to focus on anything else, close my eyes and just focus on my breathing, and then breathe away the contractions. And then I knew, okay, that one's over. I am one one more contraction closer to holding my baby. So that's kind of like the mindset you want to be in, is you're working through it, you know, breathe through it. And each contraction is getting you closer to your baby being in your arms. So that's the mind frame I would be in, and just trying to pull away from thinking about pain. So if you can have a doula, doulas are tremendous for this. They can, you know, rub your legs to kind of get your mind away from the pain of your belly. You'll be distracted by different things going on with your body, and your body will naturally pull away from the pain of your contractions. So having a doula that's hands-on and knows how to do the work is just tremendous in itself. So I definitely encourage having a doula on top of, you know, a midwife, because, you know, a midwife is there to make sure that you're receiving, you know, for the care of you and your baby. A doula is there for the physical support, emotional support, and can help guide you through it and remind you on different ways to breathe. I was fortunate enough to find Indigenous doulas, and it's a different experience to have an Indigenous doula compared to just a regular doula, because you can touch, you know, spiritually on a level, and using your medicines, the smell is a big thing in your birth as well. So really making sure that you have, you know, a really great environment on like your smells and your sounds, and really just trying to ground yourself. And I did that with my breathing. I, you know, didn't focus on stuff that was happening. Once I knew I was getting deeper into contractions, I, you know, closed my eyes and I found it in myself, and just knowing like my body was meant to do this, the creators, you know, here. And just with my teachings, I knew that I had my, you know, the ancestors there to help me. I knew my baby was safe. I knew I was safe. So really just finding it in yourself and grounding yourself during that time. And it's good to prepare yourself during pregnancy to get in the mindset of knowing how strong you are, and trusting in your body and in yourself. So that's where I say, like, the 7 grandfather teachings, I would have them write them down and just say like what it meant to me, to love the process of it, you know, respect my space, trust in it, and then with humility to humble myself, to know that the creator is there to support me, and it's going to work out how it's supposed to. So kind of letting all those fears go, and courage, you know, making sure the bravery, just to be able to be like, you know, our ancestors did this for hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, we can do this. We made it through so much already. We are resilient and strong. So just reminding yourself, even throughout pregnancy, on these different things, on, you know, what it means as an Indigenous person to be able to get through one more thing through life, you know, like where somebody else can't touch base on that, where we can, like, we made it through this. Oh, even small goals, you know, reward yourself on your goals, just so you know, like, I can do this, and keep building yourself up. That'll really help you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You don't even know how encouraging and motivating and inspiring your words are. I appreciate that, Kat.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to hear that.
And I wanted to just also encourage, just to make sure, in case you're unaware, you know, there are about to be, I believe, 28 of these Zoomcast episodes recorded and on the website. After this is edited, that it'll be posted. But there are a lot of different options for just learning about different things on there, as well as a free virtual childbirth education for Indigenous families. And that's taught by myself, and we go over stages of labor, comfort measures, things like that, as well as Elizabeth Montes, who is an Anishinaabe Indigenous breastfeeding peer counselor who just sat for her lactation consultant exam. And we spend and half of the class preparing for birth and half of the class preparing for postpartum. And then I also mail you an herbal care kit and laminated posters for birth positions, and having just goals for dreaming about what support you need both for your birth and in your postpartum, and some other information. So that's absolutely available to you and on the website, if that is interesting. There's also an Indigenous fatherhood circle for fathers to be and fathers. And so for pregnant and parenting families, those are available at any time. So there was a question here. It's around 88 degrees. What recommendations do y'all have for staying hydrated? I'm drinking 8+ cups of water daily, but still feel like I'm dehydrated. Do you want to go ahead and start, Hope?
Yeah, so one thing that is always recommended would be coconut water. That's really good for boosting your hydration compared to water. Another thing that we've been doing is liquid IV, it's called. You can get it at the store, but it helps absorb the water on a cellular level. So if you drink one bottle with the liquid IV, it's like absorbing 3 times as much as that. So that's kind of a great quick way to get rehydrated. So whether or not, like right after birth, we used to do the emergency packs, but they have it's liquid IV. Yep. And that's really great for quick rehydration.
Yeah, and remember what I was speaking about our depleted soil. We need more than water to maintain hydration within our body, and plant medicines help that also. So that's part of that mineral rich teas are hydrating versus depleting, whereas things that are diuretic that will make you pee, and like coffees and things like that just might just taking a look at things like salt intake and caffeine intake, and make sure that it's a big balanced picture. But if you feel like you're dehydrated, you probably are, because a lot of people who are dehydrated don't feel that way yet. And so I really just encourage people to vary, that yes, you need just pure clean water, but you also need things such as those nourishing minerals and those bone broths and maybe that coconut water or whatever it is that is feeling good to your body. But having that variation is really important. And liquid IV is also great for people in labor. Can also just be really wonderful for, especially if you're in a hot birth tub and you're getting dehydrated, things like that. It can be really helpful for people to really take in the fluids that they're giving their body.
I'm glad you mentioned bone broth. That's really important. And it's so nourishing with nutritions. And if you can, definitely, I would try to get bone broth even throughout, pregnancy, but then postpartum, that'll really help you heal quicker and get back to feeling better after postpartum stage. And then that helps, with the keeping warm, with your warm liquids, that nice warm bone broth. It's just really, really nourishing, and it'll help you feel so much better. I'm not seeing any more questions. I did put my email in the chat. So, if questions ever arise, please reach out. I'm more than welcome to send you any information I got or people that I know. When I went midwifery school, I got a lot of connections throughout the US. So it's really nice to be able to, like Rhonda said, connect with people to who they need to be in connection with. And definitely when you're looking for support, know that it's okay to, like, if you don't connect with a certain midwife or doula, to keep looking, and there's lots of people out there that you want to make sure that you have the right connection with and relationship with when you're receiving your care. So that's really important as well. And then if they don't know, if it doesn't connect, ask. I know, like Rhonda said, we know lots of other people that we could connect people with and really just make that connection that's needed. So definitely reach out. And if need be, I do have some connections that, throughout the US that I'd love to share.
And we do want to eventually have a more of a referral line and be able to help people find one another. But no matter how you look at it, there is an extreme shortage of providers in every way of people who, you know, are able to hold these pieces. And so, you know, that's changing, and we're growing, and we're demanding, and we're reclaiming, and it just often just starts with the ask and the intention, and laying down those prayers that, you know, the people who are to support you through your experience, that you find them and they find you. And, you know, and I feel like that's that first step. So I do see one new question. Do you want to go ahead and address that, Hope?
Oh, yep. So we have made it known, like, right away during when we go into care, like, placenta's needed. And locally, it's been pretty good with that. But I would just make sure, like, have somebody on your team to be, like, designated for getting the placenta, because there will be a million things going on. And so if you can have one person, whether it's your partner or somebody else who would be there, to just say, this is, you know, have them on placenta duty. So then right after, they could say, we need the placenta. Otherwise it can get kind of lost in the moment. So I like to kind of have people think ahead of time and assign stuff to their team if it's really important and you don't want to miss it. Oh, one person. Oh, yeah. So then I would definitely just let it be known even beforehand, if with your provider and or with the staff that's on call that day, if it's something you can say right away, and then maybe try to, hopefully they do not forget. It's so hard, especially with COVID protocols now.
Yeah.
But they should be able to.
And every the providers don't tend to deal with that aspect. So I want to just say that, like, for example, if you have a conversation in your doctor's office, they're not going to be thinking about that. It's going to be the nurses that are on staff with you, and those are going to be ever changing. And so in a lot of ways, you know, it does simply mean that, you know, first of all, this is it belongs to your baby. You know, it's not your DNA. I mean, it's a combination, but it's your baby's. It belongs to them. And you know, there might be very different policies at each hospital. So some people, in some places, they just want you to request it. In others, you have to sign a form. In others, they want to keep it for a few days and then they'll release it. And that one we really have to fight against because they get lost. In other ones, they will put it in a biohazard bag, but you need to provide a container and it has to leave within 3 hours. In others, they will provide a container, but they want you to put it in a cooler and not take it to postpartum. You know, like if you move floors or something like that, they want it taken away. And so finding out what the hospital policies are, and also that you're not asking, you are telling them that, you know, this is part of your traditional teachings and ceremonies, and that you will be taking the placenta home with you. What is the best way? You know, what are your policies so that we can have that go smoothly? It's not a please let me have my own body organs. It's not that situation. It belongs to you, and it's ceremonially an important aspect for you. And that wording and that shift is very different, and it can be done so directly and kindly. There's no reason for aggression. It's just the clarity of, you know, that this is part of your ceremonial practice and that you want to work together to have that aspect be really smooth. So worst case, bring Ziploc bags and a little mini cooler and have someone on call that could pick it up.
Misty, to answer your question, I do know Bed River is going to be trying to do one that I will be teaching. I'm not sure on dates yet. It's through the Head Start. So I can send you the information once I figure that out. I'm thinking it'll probably be within the next month or so. Otherwise, if not, I would be more than happy to help you out with that.
Yeah, there are a lot of different cradle board classes, but obviously having it be of your nation, and you know, there's a lot of different teachings and ways, and also just for local support, you know, just put out that ask. And you know, there are often people in community that's a role that they hold, you know, for their people is helping to do that. So yes, I hope you find your way to someone who can help support you with that. Okay, I want to thank you again, Hope. Your slideshow was beautiful, and your baby holding the sweet grass is so cute. So sweet, so sweet. Let's see, I'm going to just say again in the chat box, as far as the cloth diapering, does anyone want to share about that? There is also a decolonizing diapering Zoomcast that is also just talking about elimination communication. So I wanted to just put that out there. But does anyone want to share any stories of cloth diapering?
So I've done cloth diapering more so when I was home. It was a hard transition with going to daycare when they're not properly aware of it. But I do have some personal experience on it. I love it. I noticed a difference in my baby's skin, and I didn't have. I can send you the links the ones that I bought for it. There's all-in-one, and then there's inserts, and then there is covers. I didn't have to do the covers. If you were to do a cover, I would just do a wool cover instead of plastic for overnight. But yeah, I could definitely send you an email on more information on the cloth diapering. I think if you can absolutely do it, I would recommend doing it. I mean, just it's so much better and easier on your baby's skin compared to diapers. And then within a month, my diapers were paid for what I would have paid on, you know, disposables. So, I mean, it does pay for itself, which is wonderful.
All right. Hope, do you have any closing thoughts, or would you like to do a closing in whatever way you like, and then I will stop the recording?
Perfect. Miigwech-ginawa, I appreciate everyone coming. It's always a little nerve-wracking doing these, but it's definitely comforting once you get into a space with other Indigenous people and really being able to share this experience with you. I'm very grateful. You know, doing this stuff helps me grow as an individual, as a Indigenous midwife and person as well. So I appreciate you coming, and Miigwech Rhonda for inviting me and allowing me to have this space to share my experience and knowledge. Yeah, it's definitely, I love doing these. Like I said, I grow up myself as a person, being able to share, meet new people, share different experiences, and make connections. So miigwech.
Okay, have a beautiful day, everyone.